See you later.
From the beginning, Paul and I had many discussions and many concerns about not only how to do the digital aspects of creating invisibility, bringing him back and forth, but also the performance aspects.
To make the scenes realistic, to make interaction between Kevin Bacon and the other actors possible, and to make the invisible man still part of the visible world and interacting continuously with the visible world. You needed to have Sebastian Cain, Kevin Bacon on the set, even if he was invisible.
If he is just invisible, okay, I mean, then you can forget the whole film. You see for a moment, there's a shirt and a jacket running around, and that's it. So you have to think about what can we do to make an invisible person visible.
He's visible, but he's not visible like a human being. He's visible because he walks through the smoke, or the water falls on his face, so you would see the head outlined or whatever. So we had to shoot everything with Kevin.
The body language of an actor, it's very expressive, and especially if you cannot see him, it's very much about what he's doing with his body. So that was the reason.
Just the movement of the sheet and the body is very specifically made. It's just a way that really sells the invisibility.
So he could really grab the actors. When he had to strangle them, he would really do it. When he had to fight with them, he could really punch them or grab them and throw them. That it all could be done in a real way.
Having Kevin there added the problem for us of having to get rid of Kevin. How do you get him out of the scene?
And so on set, you'd either see Kevin in a black bodysuit, a green bodysuit, blue bodysuit, all dependent on the situation. And we would literally then, later on, take him right out of the scene and replace him with whatever stage of transformation we wished. The green suits are very light efficient. So from a lighting standpoint, they don't take very much work. They glow very quickly. So in most cases, those were the preferable choice, but they wouldn't work well in water.
Because the green would reflect in all the little water drops around. So in that case, you paint everything black. It has a black face. Everything has to be black.
And the green also tended not to work well in the smoke.
When you have a person walking around, but the head is gone. So to take the green head out, that's very simple. Only problem is, if the head is gone, what do we see? We see what's behind the head.
If I would be green to take me out, that's fine. Then you get, what do you get? Then you get a black hole, isn't it? Because you don't have the wall behind me. And so to add the wall, I have to repeat the move of the camera without the actor, so I now include the wall into my shot.
So we have to do the same scene twice. Once with the action and once without the action, which just shows the background.
So I can steal the wall from the plate and add it at the area where I took Kevin out of the shot. If it's a scene in the rain, Kevin running to the scene, grabbing a woman, slapping her, or worse. After shooting that shot, then you think, okay, we have 4 or 5 really good takes.
So after we got the first pass, they're talking to each other, they're happy. That's a take, excellent. So now everybody clears the set.
The actors can go back to their trailer. They can have a coffee.
Now, nobody touches the camera anymore. Now the computer works from these recorded moves and moves the camera exactly the same way.
The camera repeats precisely the same, with tracking and tilting and panning and booming up.
So the camera does the exact same move it did originally, but nobody's in the picture. That's the second pass. It's called a clean pass. In addition to that, there would be a lot of element passes.
You redo the scene again with, let's say, rain. So sometimes you have 3, 4, 5 plates on every shot.
And once we have all those passes and the director has made his selects, we would then take those and scan those into our computer. Now we're inside the computer with these frames. The animators come in now and start working on Kevin Bacon's performance. So for them, the first pass is to go in and take our puppet, which is basically a computer version of Kevin Bacon, and run him through his paces.
Kevin is what we would call a performance reference. He'd give us the performance, and we'd go back and we'd match our digital model to him.
That was our initial starting point. The guy's such an excellent actor, why would we want to change anything? So we tried to stick as close to his performance as possible.
It's really on the edge. It's really pushing the envelope in the special effects area very, very much.
Serums irradiated. This better work.
It will.
Oh, yeah?
Want to bet on it?
Well, I think that there are a lot of scenes that I think are very interesting. There's the three transformations. The transformation of the gorilla, Sebastian become invisible, and Sebastian tried to come back to visibility, but failed. These three scenes are absolutely marvelous, I think.
When I read it, I said, I know this can be done. I know we can do it. I have no idea how we're going to do it.
I actually thought it couldn't be done.
You don't make history by following the rules. You make it by seizing the moment.
I've seen individual layers be worked on, but I've never actually seen a whole human.
I don't think anybody has done this. They built the body like a really mechanical thing. All the tendons and all the muscles are really perfectly attached here and there. So when you move your arms like this, you would see all this swelling, and you would see everything inside rotating, not only the outside, but even if you would look inside, you would see the bones rotating. And if you move the fingers, that's all completely looks completely real.
I'm starting to feel something.
The live action character that's in the shot will be used for different purposes depending on the different type of shot. In a case where part of him is transforming away, we'll use a lot of the original Kevin in the plate. And what we'll do is add in patches of areas onto that character. In the cases where he's gone beyond the point where we see skin, we'll do away with him completely and put in a fully synthetic model in there.
So one of the many challenges on the Hollow Man were the challenge of getting a computer puppet to look like an anatomically correct human being.
The first thing we had to do in creating our digital version of Kevin Bacon was to do a cyber scan. Basically, this is a laser scan set of data to get his exterior skin.
Literally scanning his whole body into the computer, toenail to top of his head. But then it became the whole study of his physiology.
Normally in most computer graphics films, you just look at the exterior skin. But for this particular film, we had to create all of the internal organs as well. Creating that internal musculature set, that internal anatomy, is something that really hasn't been done before, and especially to this degree. First thing we wound up doing was taking a lot of video and photo references. Basically, we wound up gridding him into putting markers all over his body that told us exactly how his various joints and body anatomy changed as he moved.
We made him do calisthenics, made him stand on his toes, lift his arms, so that we could begin to study where his muscles attached in what area on his body. We measured each joint.
If we take any shortcuts, if we are not correct in our measurements, we're not going to get a proper lineup. We have to have the capability of making our Kevin move exactly like the real Kevin. So what I'm doing here is what we call a process of retrofit. We've done a cyber scan, then taken our generic human skeleton, and I'm trying to place the bones within his body where they really would be.
They went to a full anatomical course, so they know exactly what happens when you take the real skin and pull the skin backwards, and how liquid this is, and how wet it is, and how much fat there is. That you can, of course, study better with a real dead body.
It reminds you of a piece of meat you've seen or eaten. To get our meaty look of the muscles, we needed to have the right speck hits and the right glints on the muscles in the right place to really sell it as wet and having many, many different layers. Then after we did that and sort of made it as anatomically correct as possible, then our modelers went in and actually cheated it a little bit more, because we looked at the muscles with the skin off. We don't have a lot of the fat represented here, and that actually fills out a lot of the face. And so the modelers actually expanded out the muscles in that area to fill in and make it look more like the outer surface of his skin.
And we had another team that went along and did the animator controls and figured out exactly how to get animator to move the basic skeletal portion.
The human anatomy has very defined limitations to it. As an animator, you find it very frustrating. You just want to push an action a little more, and you can't do it.
You have to be so precise and with all these little details, because it's all mathematical formulas. And if you make a mistake, then the nose is suddenly here, or the nose is upside down, or whatever.
Another thing that really just made it so difficult for us is the actual amount of data and amount of geometry that we had to push through our system. We had to buy better and faster computers to be able to handle it, and even then, we actually couldn't load our whole model in at once.
We pushed it to the limit. Wherever we could do something, if it was the right thing for the story, we did it.
I have never seen anything so beautifully digitalized. It's really, it goes beyond what anybody has done. It's probably 100 times more complex than a dinosaur. Nearly beyond what could be done. But I think we do it.
Hi, boss.
And this again was another very clever writer's device to show the Invisible Man. You see this air pocket attacking Kramer.
But it's different than the rain scene. It's very different because you don't have rain falling, at a speed. You have a stillness of water, and he's moving through it. The impression of a body that's displacing water. And, it's interesting, you try to think about, well, what does that look like?
There is a human-shaped air bubble, but through the front, when you look through, on the back side, you see the negative form of the air bubble. If you look at him, you would see the structure of his neck, of his back, of his head, whatever.
There are no invisible men we have to reference, so we have to make it up anyway. But you can start out with kind of a scientific or technical kind of an approach. Some of the things that we've done towards that are get props, and we took some and created some plastic hands, for instance. These were used to put underwater and create an actual displacement and look at what the refractive or reflective qualities might be. So you can kind of put this over a person and say, oh, look at how much it distorts or doesn't distort. So we go through a lot of actual practical type testing to kind of work some of this stuff out.
To shoot it, that was not so complicated because it's like an action scene.
And action.
And then would say, okay, now let's do the same thing. Camera moves the same thing without the actors. So we would have the water behind them. But that doesn't work so well because water is not steady. When you have two swimming people, the water is fluctuating and is moving around. So when you do it another time, the water is sort of standstill, looks completely different.
We would also shoot bubble passes. We knew that we were going to need lots of bubbles to help integrate this guy into the scene, and that there would be bubbles behind him when they were fighting. Big exhalation bubbles, small little bubbles that are close to the camera. We'd also do the same thing when we broke the surface of the water. We'd park the camera and start making a bunch of splashes so that when the Invisible Man was splashing, we could add splashes that you would see through him. So there were, say, on average, 5 different passes of actual photography required just to start the whole process. So the animators had a real challenging job. They were basically trying to match a live-action human. Another interesting aspect, after the animators had gotten their puppet to the correct performance and we felt confident there, we have the effects animators. Their job is to create either smoke or underwater bubbles, any number of different elements that are also keyed specifically to the performance. So ultimately, yeah, we hope nobody notices what we did.
Oh, look at that! Man, he's weird. Oh my gosh,
There was a lot of discussion about what had been done in Invisible Man movies before, and Paul was very concerned that we not repeat exactly what had been done. We decided with Paul that what we wanted was a mask that did not look over-the-top evil from the beginning.
Yes, me, it's an improvement.
Yeah, you could almost pass for human.
I think our main drive was coming up with something that still looked like Kevin Bacon, but also looked like it was some crudely constructed mask.
It looks like it's a distraction.
But the funny thing was that we were using all of our skills to create something that looked sloppy and random.
This would read very well, and this might read too much.
We had to sort of work with Paul to sort of figure out, what exactly would they use. We used a material that is used in dentistry for the scenes where they're actually pouring the goop on Kevin's face. Off-screen, we mixed bowls of alginate, which is a seaweed-based dental impression-making material, and that's what the actors poured on Kevin, and I believe that we had a mouthpiece for him to breathe in.
Okay, don't move.
We did some early tests on Tom and showed Paul an interesting take where we pull up on the silicone material and then snip it, and he thought that was really neat.
Yeah, that's creepy, yeah.
Thanks, that's better.
But how do you do the next time then?
We have a mold.
We had our foam latex mask, which was a piece that we basically used and threw away every day each time it was applied.
to keep that 4 hours on your face is so nearly not only claustrophobic, it's such an unpleasant feeling because it is this to all the skin of your face.
Every day they come up with some new technique to make me go insane. They haven't broken me yet.